what do we got? Well, as usual, we are doing a low dollar project. So this is probably as low as I can get. One way or another. This is the Disgustalade. If you had seen my other videos, you remember when I picked this up. This is an 03 Escalade that has a few grills in it from me. The rest of it was in here, but it's got to be one of the most disgusting vehicles I've owned. Look. Oh my God. I folded the seats down to try to save myself. I think there's still an old Coke in there somewhere. Yep. See that? That's got soda in it. I don't know how old that is, but it's disgusting. I have not seen anything like this before in an Escalade. Look at that console. Jeez. She's dirty. She got a broken windshield. But all in, $650, including my gas to go get it. And it runs good. Got the usual exhaust leak. It's got good oil pressure. I think it's got 200 and something thousand miles on it. I don't remember how to hit the buttons to bring that up. Going through it. There we go. 274,000. Call it 275. It's 274 now. 275,000 miles. But it's complete and runs excellent. A little bit of an exhaust tick as expected. Probably needs an oil change based on the way the truck looks. But I like it. So this is how you do a low dollar LS swap. You got to buy a vehicle. And this one, strangely enough, is a two-wheel drive Escalade. So it's not an LQ9. It's just a 5.3. I don't remember what the code is for that. I think it's LM7 maybe. But two-wheel drive. So I get to use the engine and the transmission out of this one. But yeah. So the goal now is to get this out for the Hudson. But what I'm going to do first, after doing the last LS mess, I'm going to pull the nose off this car, soak this thing in degreaser with as much access as I can get, and power wash this pig. So at least I'm not working with a total grease ball, because this engine is not getting taken apart. It is getting power washed and thrown in the car as is. Only thing I'm gonna have to change, I'm sure, is the oil pan, and I think that's about it. Slap some engine mounts on it and she's rolling. Look, it even has a new water pump, or newer. Cool. Nose is off the Escalade, and I gave it a quick power wash. Not perfect. Once I get the wiring harness off, I'll have to do some more with some brake clean and stuff, but it was a real sludge one, so it's actually a lot better than it was. Still some cleaning to do, but at least it won't be scraping through a ½ inch of gunk. So that is it for this pig. Now I'm gonna take the engine and transmission out, see if I can sell anything off of it to get some money back on it. I don't want to keep it around, so it won't be around long. It'll be crushed into whatever. So next videos, I will have the engine and transmission out of this thing, and we will be ready to start mock-up in the Hudson. Bye-bye, Disgustalade. Hey, welcome back to Russ Toter Garage and the 51 Hudson build. It is day 6 for this one. I had 2 days cutting up the Escalade and getting rid of that thing, but I won't count that because not everybody has to do that. You may have an engine and transmission just sitting on the ground. So we are to the point of trying to put this engine in, but there's some stuff I got to do first. So there is the 5.3 and the 60E out of the 2003 Escalade. I gave it a quick pressure wash, which helped a lot, but I used the dollar store LA, what do they call it? Awesome or some kind of stuff. And it works, but it's not like a foamy type, stick-on type degreaser. It's kind of watery, so it worked, but I think next time I'm going to go back to the regular foam type stuff that actually sits on there and works it a little bit before you blow it off. But either way, it made it a lot cleaner than it was. But before I can put that in, I've got the Hudson here, and there's some stuff I got to deal with. I got to remove some things, like I got to remove the horns. They're not going to be used anymore. That heater hose is going to go. Some miscellaneous wiring that's in here, I'm just going to tear it all out. I don't need it. And I'm going to have to put it in the air and remove that transmission cross member. And then the elephant in the room is that wiper motor. Now I did some quick measurements, and because the truck intake is pretty tall, I'm not quite sure if that's going to clear or not. I may have to raise that bracket and then maybe extend those cables and see if I can get that to work, because the vacuum motor actually works great. So I'd hate to lose it if I don't need to, because the car's not going to be out in the rain all the time. You only need wipers once in a while when it happens. But I guess worst case scenario, I have to use Rain-X. So I've got those few things to do. I think I'm going to try to remove the grill from the car too, just so I can come in more of a straight shot in with the engine and transmission and not have to be at such an angle, because I just don't know what the clearances are going to be yet. I'm going to take some more measurements, and I may have to cut a little bit out of the firewall in those corner areas. Again, I got to tape measure out and see what I'm looking at. And then the other thing I have to do, of course, before I fly this in, I have to change oil pan. I've got an eBay shallower oil pan, you know, swap type oil pan. That's going to go on. I got to put the other engine mounts on. Again, I bought those online, same as I used on the Buick, because I liked them a lot. I got a couple broken exhaust studs to remove. At least they're sticking out, so I'm just going to heat them up, and hopefully I can get them out with a vice grip. And I think that's about it. I'm going to try to keep this as complete as possible. Maybe I'll take the fan off, but I'm going to try to keep this as complete as possible when I throw it in, just because there's even less work to put it back together. You know, it's like, why take it apart if you don't have to? But that could change. We'll see how it goes. But I'm going to start first. I'm just going to remove these few things off the car, like I said, the horns and stuff like that. Clean this firewall up a little bit from stuff I don't need. And then I think, yeah, we'll go from there. All right, firewall is getting cleaned up. Horns are gone. Some relays and stuff that was there is gone. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these reinforcement braces there at an angle and get a little more space up against the firewall. This side's going to be close. I won't know how close till I get the engine flue in here, but I think it's going to be close enough. I may be dimpling the firewall a little bit there. We'll see. That side I don't think I'll be doing anything, because I think the cylinder head is a little bit forward compared to the passenger side. So we'll get those cut and see what that looks like. Just using the side of the cutoff wheel, find the spot welds where these pieces are on, grind them a little bit, and they should come out, pop right off like that. So Okay, firewall is trimmed back. So I cut those braces back and just boxed them in. Still not sure how close it's going to be. I know it's going to be tight, so we'll find out shortly. Remove the wiper motor and just tuck the cables off to the side. For my own memory, the cables on the pulleys go to the upper connections to the motor, and the inside cables there go to the lower, because I'm going to forget. So next thing I'm going to do is get this thing up on the lift. I think it's time to cut that cross member out and see what it takes to get this grill out of the car, which is hopefully not a big deal. I don't think it will be, but it's actually a good thing because I got to paint the car anyway. And you can see the last people who painted it, they didn't take the stuff off. They just masked it off, which works. But I'm going to try to take off some stuff within reason. Again, remember, this is a quick build. I need to just get this car running and driving and not go off down the rabbit hole on too many crazy details. This thing needs to do burnouts soon. All right, let me get this thing in the air. All right, here goes nothing. Gonna cut this thing out and see if the car falls apart. I'll probably leave a little bit. I don't know. Maybe not. Let's see what happens. She's about out of there. She's out of there. And we got mouse nest again. And there it is. No more grill. It's out. Car has a little bit of rust. Did I say it's not a show car? It's not a show car. It's just something fun, reliable, that when you take to car shows, every little kid is going to run to it. A big blue Hudson. It's going to be cool. Anyway, we have a big hole here now. At least it looks huge. And yeah, we're done on the car side. All that's left to do now is some engine and transmission prep before we can fly it in for mock-up. But I got to take a break for lunch, so we'll see what we can get done today. We'll be back in a bit. All right, we are back. I flew the engine, basically hanging off of my pickup truck here. So the pan is flying in the air, so it'll be easier to change. I figure that may work. This is the eBay pan I got. Note, just like Holly has actually 3 pans, the aftermarket copies, they also have 3 pans. And it's important because the length on this sump is different. Their knockoff 3021, which is this one, is about 7.5 as far as depth. So that's the shortest one. The other one, the knockoff 3022, is about 10 inches deep on the sump. And that may or may not work in your application. Up on the Buick, I have the one with the turbo drains, and that also has the 10-inch sump. That worked fine because the front suspension is pretty far forward. But this one, the front suspension is pretty far rearward. And with the rear mount rack and pinion, the shorter sump is definitely needed. You can see where the firewall is in relation to the rack, and it probably doesn't work very well on camera, but that 8 inches or so that I'm going to need go back is going to put me in the firewall. So a 10-inch long sump would have definitely not worked. I would have been back in the firewall and would have had to do a lot more modifications. This one should be minimal, if anything, as far as mods. So this is the one that's going to get installed, and I already drained the oil out of this. Let's get it swapped. All right, well, to make things a little easier, as you can see, I did a couple things. Remove the starter, remove the positive battery cable, and just took it off because I don't know where the battery is going in this car yet, so get it out of the way. And the wiring that came down to the air compressor for the AC, the AC compressor, and the crank sensor and the low oil level, I just disconnected that and put it up out of the way for now. Removed the plastic piece there that held those wires, because I don't think the aftermarket pans even have the provisions to hold that. So that got out of the way for now, and that just gives me access, easier access to all the bolts. I think I have to take these side covers off as well. I don't think that they go in the aftermarket one, I'm not sure. Either way, I'll take them off just to make sure, and then it'll be time to unbolt this thing. Right in the drain pan. I'm just going to leave one on each side. So I can let it down slow, I hope. Let's see. Oh yeah, forgot about that. Got the big bolts that go into the, from the bell housing side. And after this, I have one on the other side that's already loose, and this one, and I think that is it. All right, pan is down. Next will be take the windage tray off. Let's see if we can do this without any surprises. Famous last words. As you've figured out already, I am not an LS expert. This is in no way a how-to video. That's for sure. I'm just winging it. It sure would be nice if the trucks came with an oil pan that fit passenger cars. Boy, would that take a lot of grease out of things. But it is what it is. Alright, my O-ring is stuck up in the pump. Get a plastic tool and get that out. So first thing I did was I just installed the tray inside the pan, comes with it, put some blue Loctite on the bolts and put those in. And I was just looking here about trimming my windage tray, and this windage tray may work with no modifications. It looks like it fits down in there. So I'm going to bolt it up and see what it looks like. Alright, so I just threw the windage tray on there with 4 nuts just to get it in. I'm curious if the dipstick tube works and if that windage tray works. Yes. Everything fits. Alright, well that's a pleasant surprise. The windage tray is going to work. Now next thing is I'm just going to take a quick check on this, because the last pan I did, I actually had to make a modification to the bracket to get it to fit. No O-ring or nothing, I'm just going to stick it up in there and see if it at least lines up. It looks like it does. Huh. Okay. Looks like it's going to work. Alright, my original O-ring that came off my factory tube was the green one. So I'm going to use the green O-ring that came with the oil pan. It's the only one that comes with it. I have all my nuts on the windage tray except for that one over there, the second one from the back that's going to hold the pickup tube. Put a little oil on the O-ring. I've never installed one of these with the engine upright, so we'll see how difficult this is. I already wiped this out, but I'm just paranoid. Let's see, this has to go like that. I think that's it. I'm going to pause the camera because I need to take my time with this. Okay, that actually went in easier than I expected. Once I got it straight, it pushed right in there. It's nice and snug. That's something I'm always paranoid about because I'm new to these LSs, as I said before. So certain things like the O-ring, I'm well aware of how O-rings work, but I'm always worried about cutting them. So for the hardware that holds the pickup tube to the pump, the pan will come with 2 new bolts, and they'll be the socket head. I think they're 5 mil, but I only use one of them. The one bolt I put in is always the factory bolt. It just makes me feel better. Now, as far as not losing these, it's easy when the engine's like this, but if you have the engine upside down, you know, you don't want to lose this inside the engine. So a trick to do that is take a piece of your glove, lay it across the Allen key or the bolt, whatever you want, like that, and then push the Allen key into the bolt. You don't need all that shit, but now it's not going anywhere. You can do whatever you want, and you're not going to drop it in the engine. So you don't have to worry so much about losing it. Alright, so I got the oil pan gasket. I first cleaned the surface of the pan with some brake clean. Stuck the pan gasket on there, and what's nice is to have the rubber around the bolt holes so you can just stick the bolts in and hold them captive until it goes up. I am not using the bolts they give you new hardware with oil pan, but I'm not using it. I'm using my own original GM hardware. Just, I don't know, weird that way, but I trust the factory bolts even in this application. So I'm going to use those. That's it. So what I'm going to do now is you have these 4 spots with the little boxes there that need RTV. So I'm going to put some black RTV on all 4 of those spots and then lift the pan up and bolt her down. All right, I cleaned the bottom of the block with some brake clean, best I could, especially in the 4 seams where the RTV is going to be, because you want that to stick. So I've got my RTV on my pan, on my gasket, and let's see if I can do this. I think it's a lot easier with the engine upside down. Let's see what happens here. Let's just stick to there. Oh, no way. Gotta be kidding. Those back bolts I'm not going to tighten with the gun. I got to do those by hand, because those are going into the aluminum case. You got to be careful with those. All right, moving right along. This is working out pretty good so far. And a drain plug put in. I see it has the holes for the bolts that go through the bell housing, and the holes for the side shield there. So that's pretty good. So far, this is, I'm impressed by this pan so far. This has been minimal, actually no issues. My only question is, should I have put Loctite on the oil pan or the pickup bolts? I don't know. They're tight. I don't think there was any from the factory, but we'll see. I can't remember if I put them on with the Buick or not. Probably not. This is good. Everything's lining up. Good. All right, next thing I have is the oil filter adapter. Just make sure it's going to thread in all right before I get crazy. Yep. All right, oil filter adapter. I'm going to use Loctite blue on the threads. So don't have to worry about that coming off. Okay. Next is the cover for this guy. And this is kind of a plastic gasket. Comes with it. I'm going to use a little Permatex number 2. It's a non-hardening gasket sealer that I like to use on different gaskets. It just works really well. Put a little bit here and just get it around where the gasket's gonna go. Don't need a lot. It's just kind of sticky stuff. It's almost like the copper spray. A little different, but it works. You got the bolts. Those are blind holes, so should not need sealer or Loctite on them. There. Those in there. I'm going to do those with the ratchet. Anything I'm threading into aluminum, I like to feel it. Snug them up. Not overly tight. Good. I think we're ready for oil filter. All right, that is going to be it for day 6. I was really hoping to get it installed today and at least laying in the car to start to mock up, but didn't happen. Other things going on, and no sense killing myself, right? So I will be back next video, be flying this thing in, hopefully setting it in place, seeing what, if any, firewall mods are going to be needed, and then once that's set, mocking it up for engine mounts, transmission crossmember, and getting this thing mounted in the car. So thanks for following along. Going to keep pushing hard on this, and so far so good.